What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report. Coming up on today's show, I want to talk about some changes the Browns could be making during their bye week. Changes I hope they make during their bye week, especially sitting at 2-7. No one wants to hear this, and no one in the facility will ever say this, but it might be time to throw in the towel on some players and start changing course a little bit. So, the first change I want to see the Browns make is more youngins. I mean, at 2-7, this is what I was talking about, throwing the towel in for some of the veteran players. I mean, Cleveland released Quentin Jefferson, for example, following the trade deadline. He was a healthy scratch for them. No sense in holding on to a veteran when you've got a rookie like Mike Hall sitting on the depth chart behind him, or I guess ahead of him at this point. But I want to see more of the youngins, though. There are three young offensive players I have in mind. Cedric Tillman, we're definitely getting a healthy dose of, so I'm not pushing for more. Well, I wouldn't mind more Tillman, but we're getting enough of Tillman, so that's not the one I have in mind too much. But Zach Zinter and DeJuan Jones, a rookie and a second-year offensive lineman. But Tillman, like I said, he's been fantastic since Amari Cooper got traded. 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He's been putting up some really solid numbers and some really impressive catches as well. But the offensive linemen are the 2 guys I want to narrow in on a little bit more. DeJuan Jones started Week 9 at left tackle over healthy Jed Wills. That is the correct decision. That is a decision the Browns should stick by for the rest of the year. Even if things get choppy at times, as long as Jones being out there is not an actual liability to the quarterback's health, they should continue with someone who has a real shot at being a long-term piece on this offensive line, whereas Wills is in a contract year, and it doesn't look like the Browns are going to have much motivation to bring him back after his rookie contract has expired. So continue to start DeJuan Jones at left tackle. And I would say for Zach Zinter, when he filled in for Wyatt Teller, it wasn't great. And he's a rookie, and he doesn't really have a good offensive line coach, in my opinion, of Andy Dickerson. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass on that. But if the season really starts to spiral out of control, when you get to the last couple of weeks of the year, might be time to maybe pull back on one of the 2 veteran guards. Maybe Teller, if you plan to move on from one of the two after the season is over, just as a cap casualty, and get Zinter some more experience. I mean, come December, if the Browns are like, all right, we got 3 wins, so obviously the season's going nowhere. We plan on moving on from either Petonio or Teller just to open up some cap space because they'll be in a tough jam next year with the second most dead cap hit across the entire National Football League, only trailing the Saints. And they plan on starting Zach Zinter next season. Why not get a little bit more of a head start on that this year and let Zinter start the last 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks of the year? Now, before we look at the other offensive or young players I want to see the Browns get on the field a little bit more, the last time we got a video with 300 likes was October 31st, Halloween, with 427 likes. Can we please end this drought without 300 likes? Make sure to like today's video, and also make sure to like every time you watch our content because it really does help grow the channel. So 4 young players on defense I want to see get larger roles. Mike Hall, your second-round pick, your first selection in the 2024 draft. We've seen his snap counts increase as soon as his suspension was over. Then Isaiah McGuire, a former 4th-round pick out of Mizzou, former UDFA Diabate, and safety Ronnie Hickman. Diabate, I like a lot as a player. He was super fun as a UDFA during training camp as a rookie. And Jordan Hicks, unfortunately, has been battling injuries. I wouldn't mind just sticking out with Diabate and see if, hey, do we have something long-term right here in terms of a starting caliber linebacker to pair with JOK for the next few years to come? And then as for Ronnie Hickman, I mean, when he gets healthy, you got to ask yourself, is Juan Thornhill really a long-term piece on this team? He's got 1 more year left on his contract. If you plan on moving on from him, why not get the better safety out there anyway? But the 2 guys that really capture my attention are Hall and McGuire. Especially McGuire. I know Hall being an earlier draft pick is going to get a little bit more eyeballs on him, but I think McGuire has done a really solid job this year with Zadarius Smith gone now and Alex Wright gone for the season, we've seen McGuire really establish himself as the third guy in this rotation now with Garrett and Okoronkwo. I mean, even when Smith was still on this team, we were getting a good dosage of McGuire on the field. So let's continue that. Let's not pull back on that. Let's continue to get these youngins on the field. Let them develop. Let them get some experience, because chances are they're going to have pretty large roles next season, because I don't forecast the Browns being big spenders in free agency, and there's only so much you can do in the draft in 1 year. So full send on playing Mike Hall and Isaiah McGuire a healthy amount, and then consideration to turn to Diabate and Hickman when healthy and put injuries to the side, because I know Hickman's been battling an ankle injury, and get those guys on the field if that time comes where you decide, similar to like Zach Zinter, of, hey, we got a veteran starting and this season's obviously going nowhere and we don't plan on retaining this veteran beyond this year. Let's get this youngin on the field because they may be starting for us next year. Before we look at the other bye week changes I want to see the Browns make, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor today, and that is Game Time. Game Time has so many cool features like the Game Time Guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Now, I love you guys, so I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video, just in case you missed that. But download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So the second change I want to see the Browns make during their bye week. Warm up DTR. Just get him in the bullpen. Have him loosen up. Have him get his arm ready, because Jameis Winston in his second start gave us the Jameis Winston experience. I mean, look at what he was able to do in his first game versus his second game, and it was a very different story. So I would just start to get DTR ready, because I felt like last year in the 3 starts that DTR made, he got better, and that's somewhat expected as the starts went along, compared to his first one against the Ravens and then his final one against the Broncos, which unfortunately he got knocked out with a concussion. But I'd never felt like what we saw from DTR was encouraging enough to really believe, like, hey, this guy is franchise quarterback material to him. But in a lost year, you don't have a lot to lose. And I don't think Jameis's leash should be all that long. I mean, if he comes out of the bye week and throws another 3-interception game, you don't have to pull the plug on him that week. But the following week, if he's got no touchdowns and 2 picks at halftime, might as well start getting DTR warmed up and on the field. So I would just like to see DTR really start to be in consideration to get some meaningful, I mean, not just snaps, but potential starts, because Jameis should not have the rest of the season to himself no matter what. So pick a quarterback for me, Winston or Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Let me know in the comment section below who you would rather have start. I understand that long-term, you always want to, like, naturally we think long-term you just want to go with the young player. But Jameis is only 30 years old, so if he kind of bounces back from that rough showing in Week 9, you can get some solid years out of him. I mean, look at Geno and the Seahawks as an example of that. Third and final change coming out of the bye is resurrect the secondary. I'll be honest, I don't have a great blueprint or how-to when it comes to fixing the secondary. But I can tell you, it's broken. It's fractured. And I'm mind blown by it. I mean, the best player in this DB room has to be Denzel Ward. I know PFF likes Juan Thornhill more. I don't know what they're seeing. But across the board, massive regression. I'm not sure what happened to Martin Emerson. Greg Newsome being 96 feels like a sigh of relief because it's not as bad as Emerson. Grant Delpit was one of my favorite players on this team. I went to war for this guy when it comes to defending that extension he got last year. And no one outside of Ward has given me any reason to believe that this Browns DB room is anything but bottom 5 in the NFL this year. So Jim Schwartz and this coaching staff coming out of this bye need to either change things up schematically a little bit, because I don't understand how we are so far removed from Joe Woods and I still have Chargers receivers running wide open. It was almost like poetic that it was the Chargers, of course, because for some reason the Chargers love to play their best when they play the Browns. In LA, back in, what was that, 2021, and then in Cleveland in 2023. Yeah, 2 years ago, whichever one it was. 2 years ago, I think it was. Yeah, 2022. So after Deshaun Watson, I would say the biggest disappointment for me this year has been the Browns secondary. Emerson last year, 4 interceptions. Newsome had 2 picks. Denzel Ward continued his streak of minimum 2 interceptions every single year. This year, they've got 1 interception. It's almost Thanksgiving, and they've picked off 1 pass. Quick story. In 6th grade, my youth football coach quit on us. He was from the deep south of Texas, and when he quit, he said, quote, "You guys have too much talent to be this bad. You've had 1 touchdown." And that was by accident. And it was by accident, by the way. It went through like 3 guys' hands and fell to someone's lap. This team has had 1 interception. They have too much talent to have 1 pick. Was it JOK in the goal line? It's the only interception I can think of, right? Or Dak throwing 2 picks? It's been dreadful. It's been a long drought. So, DBs, get your shit together. So predict the Browns' record for me. Sitting at 2-7, how many wins do you think they're going to get to? They've got a tough schedule. I mean, we can talk about it here. They got their Steelers games coming up twice. 1 more against the Ravens, 1 more against the Bengals. They got the Chiefs. They got the Broncos. A lot of winning teams right there. I'm going to say 5 wins. I'm going to believe they can find 3 more wins. I'm going to say they're going to be a 5-win team this year, which is massively underwhelming. Before we sign off, I do want to show some love to the Brown and Orange Club. Tim Green, Mike Dibble, Jeremy Stallman, Slow But Sure, David Botner, Jared Brandt, James Harper, Papa T, Joseph DePorte, Mike, Ray Bidding, Dr. No, Eli Green, what's going on, Eli? John Porter, Scorpion, Max T, Jacob Bate, Drunken Honky, Pistol and Kiki, and the 2 belt tandems, along with Nicholas and Tyman. Thank you guys so much for being such loyal and devout supporters of the channel. If you want to get added to the club, $50 super chat during our next watch party, and we'll add you to the list.